Expand fully into my gifts and abilities, connect with my higher self. All right, thank you. You're welcome to continue sharing. I'm going to be continuously tuning in. But for now, I'm going to open up our transmission for today with a prayer. Thank you, Spirit, for bringing us all together here today. Thank you for inspiring everyone who is joining us on this live call or on the replay to be here present for this experience of activating our Akashic channels. Thank you, God, for the spiritual resource of the Akashic Records, this resource of so much love, of infinite, profoundly healing love, of spiritual truth, of divine wisdom. Thank you for the spiritual resource that offers us guidance, helping us to manifest the lives that we truly desire, the lives of our dreams, the lives that we are also worthy of, lives of love, lives of peace, lives with play, with joy, lives with possibility where we are truly living from our divine creative potential, remembering, acknowledging that we are extensions of you, Spirit, that we carry creative energy through us as us, that there is so much possible for us in this experience of life, that there is an endless and infinite amount of love for us in this life, love from the earth, from our Divine Mother, Pachamama, love from God, love from Spirit, from Source, from our Heavenly Father. Thank you to the Akashic Records for continuously reminding us of how loved we are, how supported we are, and who it is we truly and actually are. Thank you for the ways in which you clear us of any and all limiting beliefs, liberating us from karmic patterns, clearing the lens through which we perceive life, seeing it through the eyes of your truth, Spirit, instead of through the lens of all the prevalent human conditioning and trauma and wounding and fear and ideas of lack. Thank you to the Akashic Records for clearing our lens, for allowing us to see life as it truly is. Thank you for awakening us out of ideas of victimhood. Thank you for restoring to us our personal power, the power that it is that we carry within us as extensions and expressions of the divine, of the Creator, endowed with so much creative power. Thank you to the Akashic Records for reminding us of our creative power. I trust that if you are here with us today, it's for a reason. Everybody has an innate connection to the Akashic Records. The Akashic Records can be thought of in various different ways. The word Akashic comes from the Sanskrit word for Akasha, which means ethers or space. So the Akashic Records are the recording of all that is, has been, and could be within space. You can think of them like the totality of the Big Bang, all that is, has been, and could be, being imprinted onto space. Those are the Akashic Records. You can also think of them as the mind of God. The Bible refers to them as the book of life. While we are in these human bodies, we don't have access to the Akashic Records in their totality because the Akashic Records are the knowing, the remembrance of infinity and eternity, which is entirely incomprehensible to the human mind, which was designed to make sense of this seemingly limited linear experience of life. However, what we can do is we can develop states of consciousness, states of mind that allow us to come into perspectives or to receive insight or guidance which is resonant with that of the Akashic Records. So when we are developing our connection to the Akashic Records, you don't have to worry about doing it absolutely perfectly, because as a human being, you never will. But what you will be doing is you will be attuning your human mind, your human consciousness, the patterns of your mind, of how you relate to life, perceive life, interpret life, and you will be bringing it into greater, truer resonance with the mind of the divine. This is, I feel, imperative for this day and age, because I imagine all of you are seeing in some way how many limiting beliefs are currently moving through humanity, and how common it is within humanity at this time to perceive life in ways that are mistrustful or antagonistic. How common it is for people to hold fear, ideas of lack, ideas of separation, believing that they are truly separate from all of existence, from all of creation, from all of life. And when we operate from those perspectives and those beliefs, we are more susceptible to creating drama in our lives, to creating chaos, to manifesting disease, to not being able to have healthy, thriving relationships. We cannot step into our purpose and truly feel fulfilled in the ways in which we are serving this life and serving humanity. So, our capacity, our ability to come into this connection with the divine, with source, with spirit, with the Akashic Records, whatever you want to call it. I call it accessing the Akashic Records, but you could also call it communion with God, getting to know the mind, heart, and spirit of God. That I feel is imperative at this time in order to truly thrive in this life. There is so much possible for us in this experience of life. We are not limited. And not only are we not limited, we also are so deeply loved by Pachamama, by the earth, and we are so deeply loved by God. We are the children of our Divine Mother and our Divine Father. And we are endlessly loved and supported. And this love and support is apparent in absolutely everything. We can feel and connect with this love and support in every breath that we take. The fact that it is filled with oxygen, which was created for us by the plant kingdom to sustain us. Every time we eat food, that's a gift from Pachamama. The fruit trees, the flowers, the animals, they're sustaining us, they're nourishing us, they're creating us. There's love everywhere. The entire weaving of this reality is love. It's support. It is divine intelligence. It is also interconnectedness. It is so obvious from one perspective how interconnected we truly are. The fact that it's one air that we share. We all share the same breath. We all come from the same mother. We all come from the same father. Like Pachamama, our earthly mother, is the OG ancestor, the original ancestor, and then our heavenly Father, God, is the same spirit that animates us, that makes our heart beat, that gives us life, that is moving through the cells of our body, giving life to these bodies, is the same spirit that moves through all. So the Akashic Records are continuously reminding us of these perspectives. And when we live from these perspectives, everything changes. We live with so much peace. And that peace brings emotional well-being. And that peace brings physical health. A lot of physical health challenges start when we are stressed out, when the body doesn't have time to rest, to regenerate itself, when we start to develop distortions within our own consciousness that aren't true or real. And then when our consciousness isn't healthy, our physical bodies cannot reflect optimal, vibrant health because our physical bodies are so deeply impacted by our consciousness, by our energy, by our emotions. And peace is what allows us to see clearly. It's what clears our consciousness so that we can support optimal health. It's also what allows the body to come into physiological states that support optimal health. So, accessing the Akashic Records, it brings us peace, it brings us love, it automatically restores our capacity for forgiveness, our capacity to let go. So many people currently on the planet are suffering right now because of resentment, because of bitterness, because of what they're harboring based on the past, based on the perceived wrongdoings of life or of others. But from the Akashic Records perspective, absolutely everything that occurs within our lives is occurring to serve us in some way. It is occurring to catalyze our spiritual evolution. It is occurring to grow us. It always occurs for a reason. And that reason is serving us. And when we relate to it in that way, we create a healthy relationship to all the challenges of our lives. And we no longer harbor resentment, bitterness, lack of forgiveness, even things like anger, because we learn how to work with those spirits. When anger arises, it's an invitation for the creation of new boundaries, an invitation for a transformation in our relational dynamics. It always comes with wisdom that is there to benefit us and there to serve us. But when we're not in right relationship with it, with something like anger, just to give an example, then it can burn us. It can fry our nervous system. It can destroy our relationships. It can have us engage in deeply toxic, abusive relational dynamics and then blame the other person. But really, we're just making ourselves sick and we're just creating a living hell for ourselves when we don't receive the wisdom, the benefits of what is arising within us or what is arising in our lives. The Akashic Records show us why things are arising, how they are seeking to serve us, what wisdom they are carrying. They also can show us what the most effective and precise pathways are to us manifesting what it is that we actually desire. So, I'll briefly share a personal example around my experience when I first started accessing the Akashic Records. I was struggling with an autoimmune disease. I had been diagnosed with Hashimoto's, and I had been seeing various different naturopaths, and they recommended a very strict diet to heal the autoimmune disease, as well as supplementation and detoxing, sauning. They had a whole protocol for me to heal. It didn't really work. I was not getting better. And so when I started accessing the Akashic Records, I learned from my Akashic Records what the root causes were of the disease that I had manifested at the level of consciousness. How was I behaving in ways that were perpetuating those energetic blockages that over decades had then become an actual physical disease? When I became aware of that, I was then guided in how to shift it. I also was shown that the strict diet that the naturopaths had put me on was stressing me out. I also had internalized a lot of ideas and beliefs that I was sick, that there was something wrong with me. Those beliefs and ideas started when I was a child, and I was able to see from the Akashic Records when they started and why they started and what was said to me. Through that consciousness, through the Akashic Records shining light on all of that, I was equipped to heal it. I was able to recognize, oh, in my subconscious, I'm running this belief, there's something wrong with me. And then I was able to be aware of when I'm thinking it, when there's some sort of thread of that belief occurring in my mind, and then shift it, choose a new way. Access the Akashic Records in that moment to see that there's actually nothing wrong with me, that all my symptoms are actually seeking to heal me, that the manifestation of this disease is benefiting me in some way. What is the wisdom that it is bringing to me? What is it actually showing me? And because I saw from the Akashic Records that the diet was stressing me out, I was then shown how stress, it creates like cortisol, it creates adrenaline, it creates these physiological responses in the body that immediately halt the body's healing mechanisms. The body can only heal when it is in a deep state of rest and relaxation. So the Akashic Records told me that what was more important than following this super strict protocol was actually learning how to regulate my nervous system and how to come into deep, deep, deep states of rest and relaxation so that my body could regenerate itself. It needed this extended time of regeneration because I had already manifested a disease. So I healed a lot more quickly utilizing the Akashic Records. This is just my personal journey. I'm just sharing honestly, than I did by investing thousands of dollars into naturopaths. It was actually not as effective for me because the Akashic Records, they know you. They know you. So they have precise and accurate guidance to share with you around any circumstance in your life. I also use the Akashic Records, me personally, to move from having been completely broke and basically living in poverty my entire adult life up until I started working with the Akashic Records to then creating prosperity. And some of the guidance that came through was a bit counterintuitive for me at the time. I was really broke. I was living in LA. I couldn't even afford rent, so I was staying at my brother's house. And I was instructed to become incredibly over the top generous, even though I had debt. And that's not something that I would have done on my own. I had to receive that guidance from the Akashic Records, and that completely, like, it completely changed my entire subconscious to believing, okay, if I'm this generous, it must be because I'm abundant. And then that started reflecting in my life in really magical ways. So I'm sharing all of this with you so that you have a bit of an idea of the potential of working with the Akashic Records. I am offering this free event because I feel like having some sort of connection, whether you call it the Akashic Records, prayer, communion with the divine, I think it's imperative at this time in order to thrive. Because people are suffering and people are in stories of drama and pain, and there's war, and there's, I don't know, financial turmoil and political turmoil. There's just so much going on. And if we don't actually know the truth of God, the truth of the divine, and live accordingly, then we can get caught up in those currents of consciousness. And they're just, I mean, they're just like the roads to hell. They like stress us out. They damage our relationships. They damage our health. They have us not really feel all too ecstatic and excited about being here. They have us forget that this life is a gift, that there's so much to be grateful for. There's so much love to be experienced. There's so much joy. There's the potential for play. There's the potential for fun. We truly can live in heaven on earth. Like, truly, this is real. Heaven on earth is real. We are all the children of God. We are entitled to live in the kingdom of heaven in the here and now. However, we access it through one way and one way only, and that is living according to divine truth. And we need reminders of divine truth because they're not really so prevalent or common or normalized around us. What's become really normalized is like the drama, the chaos, the problems, the limiting beliefs, the like, this group against that group. And it's just stories, it's just creations. It's not the inherent divine truth. And when we cultivate that connection to the inherent divine truth, which is what the Akashic Records are continuously reminding us of in an infinite number of ways, then we become really protected, because this truly is a planet that is experiencing some spiritual warfare. There are all sorts of like darker energies that are wanting to grab our attention, and we see it in the news. It's like it's like this like trying to infiltrate our consciousness with these different ideas of humanity and ideas of life that are really limiting, that are really rooted in suffering, that honestly really feel like hell. But we don't have to like give that any energy or be a part of it at all, because we're the children of God, we're the children of Pachamama. It's such a glorious existence. It's incredible. It's a miracle. What we're living is a miracle. It is a gift from God. Our lives are gifts. The fact that our bodies are comprised of trillions of tiny little cells, and each cell is an individuated consciousness that works tirelessly for our existence. It's like our bodies are gifts. They're made up of food, which is created by Pachamama, our divine mother. It's like, wow, it's just all such a gift, and it's so beautiful. This earth is so beautiful. And then we have all these human beings before us that are reflections of us, they're extensions of us. It's like, that's another you in there. And it's beautiful. And the truth of love, the truth of life is love. If we're all one, then the truth is love. So the Akashic Records will keep you reminded of all of this. And I think that because humanity has strayed so far as a whole from divine truth, it's important that we all not only develop a connection, but also practice this connection on the daily or like near daily. It'll elevate your life in ways beyond your imagination and comprehension if you haven't already been accessing the Akashic Records. It opens up, it opens you to what is actually possible for you. And it keeps you reminded of what is actually possible for you, which then liberates you from those karmic patterns. The patterns that you're like, oh, this isn't actually what I desire. This isn't actually what I want for my life, but I just keep living it. It also liberates you from the unconscious beliefs that we have that then get reflected in our reality that aren't actually reflecting our inherent divine worthiness and lovability and creative power. Many of us have, I mean, all of us have been conditioned in some way or another that keeps us from truly living our potential and truly knowing ourselves, knowing how lovable we are, knowing how worthy we are, because of various influences we've had as children, growing up, culturally, even present day, just all these different suggestions coming our way that we're not worthy, that we're not lovable. It's so deeply embedded in our culture and in our society in so many ways. Like, we have capitalism for many of us living in the Western world that has us believe that we're only worthy if we're productive, if we are making a certain amount of money, or we're only worthy if we achieve some certain like absurd standard of beauty or success or whatever it is. It's just all these really wacky human-made ideas that for many of us became so normalized. We just grew up in them that we don't even know that we're harboring them, and they're actually keeping us from the full potential of love and self-acceptance, self-appreciation, and self-celebration that we can experience here. And when we are filled with that love, acceptance, appreciation, and celebration for ourselves, our entire lives transform. We experience way more positive and higher frequency emotions far more often and stably. And we have happier, healthier relationships. We also become able to manifest so much more. We get to experience our creative potential, all those dreams and desires, like those ideas in our minds that we hold ourselves back from actually doing, actually taking action on, actually manifesting and growing and giving birth to their greatest potential. When we like love ourselves and appreciate ourselves and accept ourselves, all of that can come into fruition. So many of us are just being so held back, and the Akashic Records can clear it. It can clear it. It can help you see it. We often don't even see it because it's everywhere. It's just so the culture, the conditioning, it's everywhere. It's in everything. It's in everyone. So we don't even know sometimes. And then we feel like we're stuck. But you're not stuck. You're never stuck. It's just an illusion to believe that you are stuck. And my biggest prayer for all of you who have come to this event, thank you for coming. And for all of you listening to the replay, is that you truly open to this practice, knowing that you are a loved, worthy, supported child of God, and that this connection is inherent, it's innate to you. And if you've never accessed the Akashic Records before, it's not because you can't or because you need a special gift or a special ability to do so. It's because you've never actually tried and you've never really trusted wholeheartedly that you can. Because sometimes people say they try, but they try without faith. You can't do it without faith. You've got to have faith. In this experience of life, we have been granted free will. So if you believe you can't, then God isn't going to make you do it. So if you believe you can't access the Akashic Records, if you believe you're not worthy, if you believe you don't have this psychic, intuitive, spiritual connection, then you won't, because that's part of God's love for you, the granting of the free will, of your ability to create. And God knows that your destiny is to come home to the truth of God. So no matter how far you stray, no matter what wacky, wild ideas you create for yourself around being unworthy or being separate from the divine or being unloved and not supported and powerless and hopeless, God lets you play that out because God knows it's just a dream. We're just living a dream, and our destiny is to come home to the truth of God eventually. And all experiences of life are valid. So God blesses whatever we choose, whatever direction we choose to head in, whatever experiences we choose to have. And if you feel like you've been heading in directions or having experiences that you no longer want to have, you no longer want to head in that direction, you can change course at any moment, at any moment. And truly, our connection with God and with divinity can support us in doing that. But first, we need to have faith in that connection. So that's one of the biggest prerequisites to accessing the Akashic Records, faith. The other one is the capacity to come into a still, silent, and spacious state of mind. In order to do that, we need to have access to trust. Oftentimes, when people don't trust life, when they don't have a direct and close relationship with God, then they will try to control life. And they may be constantly thinking as a way of trying to micromanage life and figure life out and know what's happening. And so, trust allows us to come into those deeper meditative states, which then allow us to receive Akashic Records guidance and insight and messages and perspectives more clearly and more readily. If we are too oriented towards productivity, if we're always thinking about our to-do list, if our bodies are more in like a conditioned hustle state where we wake up and we go, and we're always thinking about the next thing we have to do, and we're drinking coffee and we're valuing how much we get done in a day, that physiological state doesn't allow us to access the Akashic Records, because the Akashic Records is a practice of deep, deep listening. And we are listening to the stillness. We're listening to space, Akashic, space, ethers. We're listening. We come into Akasha within us. We allow our consciousness to attune to the frequencies of Akasha, of space, in order to receive from the Akashic Records. That's how we become a vibrational match to the wisdom of the Akashic Records. So we have these 3 days together, and I want to invite you over these next 3 days, if you feel inspired to take more time in beingness, taking in the stillness, the silence. This is an incredibly productive practice if you desire to develop a greater relationship to the Akashic Records or to God. Okay, becoming acclimated with that state and becoming comfortable with it. Just tuning into the chat because I saw, so we shouldn't drink coffee at all. No, I apologize. I expressed it that way. What I meant, what I was speaking to is more I personally don't drink coffee because for me, it stimulates me and has me feel like I have more energy than I actually have. And I'm just speaking to me personally. I don't want anyone to think that I'm imposing this on you at all. A big part of my journey, which is primarily the Akashic Records and my work with Wachuma. I live here in the Sacred Valley of Peru, where I work deeply with the plant medicine of Wachuma, also known as San Pedro. A big part of my path has been to develop deeper communication with both God and with nature. I have a deep relationship with the mountains here. Those are the beings, the spirits that help me hold my plant medicine ceremonies. And part of that is the deep communication with my body. So I don't drink coffee because I feel like it severs in some ways my connection to how much energy my body actually has. I experience it as a bit of like a false state for me personally. And just for my journey, based on my work, how God made me, I like to create an honest relationship with my body where I'm receiving the communication from my body honestly. I don't know if I communicated that in a way that makes sense, but everybody has a different journey. What I was referring to in that comment was more so like the coffee culture, the energy of like the cup of coffee and then like as much productivity as possible and the mind going, going, going and getting things done and how much can I get done and how much can I push forward and how much can I create and that like productive push that actually has us stray from our nature that arises because of the conditioning of capitalism. The more, the more, the more, the more. I've had the gift of living in various places around the world. I grew up in the United States, so I was like deeply conditioned by capitalism, and I didn't know because that's all I knew. But now I live in the Sacred Valley of Peru, which is living outside of a lot of that conditioning. And the pace is slower, and the priority is relationships and family, and it's it's a different orientation. When people are in a rush, here it's seen as quite strange. Like, why are you in a rush? So that's what I'm referring to, that like frequency of go, do, that cuts us off from the Akashic records. It doesn't allow us to receive because then the mind immediately jumps to like formulating things and making things up and trying to move things forward. The Akashic records are reflecting nature. They're really reflective of nature. So even when you bring something to the Akashic record that you want to manifest now, the Akashic records will remind you that all flowers bloom in divine time, that the fruit tree, it grows and bears its fruit at the right time. So the Akashic records speak a lot to sorry, I was tuning into the chat. They speak a lot to the divine timing. So yeah, I'm just tuning into the chat. I feel like different plants and different medicines. I think of all plants as medicines because I work so deeply with the plant world. Like coffee is just a brilliant ally for some people. It really works well with some people with their consciousness and with their bodies. And everyone is so different. So something else that I love about the Akashic Records is that they reveal to us our differences and how there isn't one path for everyone. I personally, my soulmate plant is Wachuma. I love Wachuma, and I used to dye it with roses. And then the Akashic Records shared with me like roses have thorns. So you're learning so much from the spirit of the rose and the beauty of the rose and the femininity and the softness, right? But then they also have thorns. Like you can't get too close and you can't like, you have to be so delicate and sensitive. So when you're dieting and working with the rose, you're also receiving that. So then I stopped working with rose because I was like, oh yeah, I don't want to be like thorny or like super sensitive or people have to be all delicate with me, otherwise they'll get pricked. And just different medicines for different people work really, really well. And the Akashic records are showing that to us, which is one of the reasons why I love them so, so, so much because they know your soul. They know the uniqueness of you. And then they speak to that. Everyone's path is different. That's why I feel that the medical industry is in many ways so disconnected from the truth of the divine. It has us believe that we are victims of our bodies when our body manifests a disease. It has us believe that these manifestations of certain symptoms are random. They're mistakes from God. They're mistakes from Pachamama. They're mistakes of our body. And that there's nothing we can do about it, as if we weren't these extensions of divinity, as if our bodies were stupid. They are the most brilliant creations ever. They hold our souls on this planet. Like they're brilliant beyond the fact that we have a digestive system, an immune system. Like what? We like eat an apple and then turn it into energy and it turns into muscle. Like it's just, and it like hair and skin and like the whole thing is miraculous and magical. And that's the reality. And when people are manifesting symptoms, there's always a root cause. And the medical industry will be like, oh, here's a pill. It's like, wow, there was so much spiritual evolution for you in that symptom, and we just totally missed it. And it's not the same for everybody. It's always like we all have a unique path. So the Akashic records reveal that unique path. I'm tuning into the chat. I'm tuning into more of your intentions for being here. Yeah, I love this. Open more into my unlimited potential of love and joy, sharing my gifts with humanity. Vea says, as if our bodies are stupid. Yeah, I'm glad you love the explanations. Thank you for your shares. Okay, so activating your Akashic channel. Well, before I dive in, let me know if you have any questions. If you do, you can put them into the chat. The way this 3-day event is going to go is today I'm sharing a teaching transmission. Tomorrow I'm going to share a group Akashic record reading, and that's just going to give you an idea of how I work with the Akashic records. But you are all going to have your own unique relationship to the Akashic records, your own unique channel, and it's going to be right for you, and it's going to be the most brilliant and genius expression through you. We all have our own unique divine design. So I never share a group Akashic record reading for people to in any way compare themselves to the way that I channel or strive in any way to channel the way that I do. It's just so that you can experience the channel of someone who has been obsessively cultivating their channel for 10 years. And you'll have the opportunity to ask questions. And the intention around that is for you to experience even more deeply through me how the Akashic Records connection can develop through someone. But that doesn't mean that that's how it will develop through you. Ultimately, you are seeking to cultivate your unique connection. But I'll just give an example tomorrow. And then on Saturday is when I'm going to guide you all in accessing your own Akashic Records. So for Saturday, I recommend coming to our class with no interruptions and being able to drop in deeply with quiet all around you. I'll also record it, so you'll be the recording will be shared with you if that's not possible for you. Okay, I'm tuning into the chat again. I've had my soul realigned through the question. So in response to your question, the medications absolutely can prevent connections, but we are living in an experience of life where so much is possible for us. So if you offer your prayer to the divine, to God, of I'm still taking this medication, for whatever reason, I feel that I need to take this medication now, and I would still like to establish a connection. Then you can have a way, you can create a way where perhaps the medication could even support your connection or at least not impede the connection, knowing that it has the potential to do that. But you can also work with the energies of the medication. Like maybe before you take the medication, offer it a prayer, offer it a blessing that it'll support your connection, and then dedicate your time after taking the medication to connecting. Life is pretty imprintable in many ways, and we know this from the placebo effect. So many people talk about the placebo effect. It's so real. Our consciousness is so powerful, and we are working with like a tiny little minuscule part of it, like a little tiny percentage of the power of our consciousness. We have just created such crazy stories that we're not these incredible, powerful, brilliant expressions of God here on planet Earth. So I feel like with situations like this, like, taking a medication, feeling like it's preventing connection, you can start to play with the power of your consciousness. I love it. I have learned the gift of divine power. Yes. Is it possible to heal generational trauma from accessing the Akashic Records? Absolutely, yes. I can share about my personal experience healing generational trauma from accessing the Akashic Records. I did not even know that generational trauma was impacting my perspectives. I didn't know because I was born with those perspectives because it's generational trauma. When I started exploring, first I looked at my everyday life when I started with the Akashic Records and I saw, okay, here's somewhere where I feel like I'm not living my potential. And that somewhere, that one area at that time, when I speak about the generational trauma, was in my relationship to men and the masculine. I was in a partnership with like the kindest man ever, so sweet, but I wasn't really fulfilled. I didn't totally trust him. There was just stuff going on. It wasn't I wasn't living like the full potential of just the fun, the joy, the peace, the play, the yay of life. And when I started accessing the Akashic Records about it, the questions were prompted by, okay, there's something here, not living my full potential here. I saw that I was holding these perspectives based on generational trauma. And just through becoming aware of how that generational trauma was impacting my perspectives, I didn't know about that generational trauma. Like I wasn't thinking about it. And then I accessed the Akashic Records and I saw it. I was like, oh, this is what happened to my grandmothers. This is what happened to my great grandmothers. It's impacting how I see life. It still lives on within me. I also, before I started accessing the Akashic Records, I didn't know that traumas lived on. I kind of just, I mean, I never really thought about it, but I thought that people died, their traumas died with them. But what happens here on the planet, like within humanity, human consciousness is interconnected. So what happens here, it stays here until it's healed. It doesn't just die when the people die. That's why we are still healing the traumas of wars where everyone involved in those wars has long passed. Everything gets passed down. Everything gets passed down until someone heals it. So I saw how various things had been passed down to me. And then I was able to see the Akashic Records reality related to those generational traumas. Like, okay, my trauma has me see this way and therefore act this way and then feel this way. But here is the Akashic Records truth. And just having that awareness empowers us to start to change how we relate to whatever that trauma is related to. Does that make sense to everybody how I explained that? And you will know what generational traumas you are carrying based on where in your life are you not like, yes, I am living well, like full fulfillment here, like my full potential feels like it's being realized. Anywhere where there's just like a lot of struggle, if there's like drama or pain, that's somewhere that you can explore. Start to ask questions, and then you can start to become aware of where it's coming from and if it is generational trauma. And if so, how do you start to heal it now? A big part of our Akashic Records practice and optimizing how incredibly valuable and transformative it can be in our everyday lives is learning to ask really good questions. So we're still on day one. On day three, we're going to be opening the Akashic Records ourselves. After that, I am going to invite all of you to develop a practice of continuously accessing the Akashic Records and get really good at asking different questions. Like you want to ask questions from various different perspectives. Like, okay, why did I feel this way about this thing that happened? If you ever feel negatively about something that's happening that you think maybe logically is not such a big deal, you can ask, where is this coming from? Is this coming from my childhood? Is this coming from a generational trauma? Is it coming from like an ancestral trauma? How has this impacted me? What is the truth from the Akashic Records perspective? How is this serving me? How is this healing me? You can start to explore from various different perspectives to begin to shed light on the circumstances of your life that you feel are not optimal, that you feel are not like your highest potential, knowing that God loves you, Pachamama loves you, and that there is so much possible for you in this experience of life relevant to love, joy, peace, well-being on all levels. I'm looking at the chat again, the chat box. How can we direct our access to the could be so it gives us strength to heal? me tune into this question. I'm not sure I completely understand it, Maria, if you want to expand about around that question, but what comes to mind is that I really had no idea that we could live in heaven on earth here in this experience of life. Before I started accessing the Akashic Records, I was struggling in every area of my life. I was struggling so much financially. I was struggling with my health. I experienced a lot of negative, dense emotions, so that was really difficult for me. I didn't really understand energetic hygiene at the time. I was living in Los Angeles. I feel like I was saturated with a lot of like bleh energies and just feeling pretty bleh. And I didn't know that life could be consistently peaceful or that there could be fun and ecstasy and play most of the day, most days. Like I just didn't know that heaven on earth was an actual reality until the Akashic Records showed me. And the cool thing about what we see in the Akashic Records is that it's not you reading it from a textbook or hearing it on a podcast. There's more of a transmission that occurs because when you are accessing the Akashic Records yourself, it is coming through you. And it's an immersive, embodied experience. You receive the energy of it and you see it and you feel it. And it's almost like being submerged in this experience of it. So it feels a lot more real. When you access the Akashic Records and God tells you directly, hey, Pearl, heaven on earth is available to you. It is accessible to you. Like, this is your destiny. This is what I desire for you as my beloved, cherished daughter. I love you. I love you. Like, when we feel that and receive that, it's different than here, like reading in a book, like heaven on earth is possible, or receiving it on a podcast. It's not as immersive. It's not as embodied. It's not as deep. So it's really valuable to develop our own connection to the Akashic Records, to divinity. Hmm. I'm glad, Pearl. Yay. Okay, I'm tuning back into the meeting chat. Okay, thank you. Still about the generational trauma. How can we direct our access to the could be? I think it helps to connect with what are our dreams, desires, and prayers for this life, and then bring them to God, bring them to the Akashic Records, and do it consistently and continuously because sometimes we experience miracles in this life. Sometimes it's just shift. We are on a different timeline. Other times it's gradual, it's a process. Some of these things that we are coming up against, that we are healing and transforming, they have been with us for lifetimes, or they've been in our lineage for generations. So if we can have a lot of compassion for ourselves, have a lot of patience with ourselves, but stay aligned, like stay conscious of the direction that we actually want to move in, and then take those steps day by day, day by day. The Akashic Records keep us reminded so that we can take those baby steps. First, they're baby steps, and then we start to gain momentum, and then it becomes a lot easier. And that's when we can live, that's when we start to live into what is possible, live into the could be instead of according to our generational, ancestral, or past life traumas or childhood traumas. Traumas, they keep us stuck, they keep us looping. They distort our perspective of life. They have us see life in a way that it isn't, but in a way that it was when that trauma occurred. But it's not inherently that way. So the Akashic Records keeps us reminded because sometimes it takes time to clear that lens. We don't know how long we have been carrying these things. It's so important to be not only patient with ourselves and have a lot of compassion, a lot of forgiveness, but also to keep going, to keep going, to keep moving forward. How have you used your spiritual gifts and Akashic Records to find your life purpose in your experience? Is asking good questions the process? Thank you for your question, love. Okay, let me tune into this. To find your life purpose.
Yeah.
I have found from the Akashic Records, sorry, I was trying to mute someone that was unmuted for a moment. Um, I have found that the Akashic Records often reveal to us that our life purpose is in everything that we do. It's there all the time, especially when we are stepping into roles as spiritual practitioners. So, a big part of the transmission that we offer is not just the words or the mental understanding of what we share, it is who we are, it is how we are, it's how our mind operates, it's the emotions that we experience on a daily basis. It is the state of our relationships, not only our relationships to other human beings, but our relationships to ourselves, our relationship to God, our relationship to the earth. All of that gets transmitted in our life purpose, our career, our work. So, therefore, who we are and how we are and the choices we make 24/7 are our life purpose. All of it is our life purpose. Every thought that we think is a part of our life purpose. As the Akashic Records remind us of this, then we become better at aligning the totality of our lives, every single moment of our lives, with our mission, with our desire, with our service, with our prayers. Because at the end of the day, they're all one. They all weave together. The more we are living our life purpose, living in service, our life purpose is always rooted in service. Everything that exists to serve in some way. There is nothing in this existence that has been created without its life purpose being service. You can see flowers, for example, they don't just live for themselves. The flower blooms, and as it blooms, the birds and the bees come. They feed from the flower, and the flower holds medicinal properties. Humans brew the flower for tea. The flower is beautiful. The flower supports pollination. It's serving in so many different ways. And that's how it is with everything in existence. We find our life purpose through opening the spirit of service. The more that we are connected to the spirit of love, to wanting and desiring the best for others, wanting to serve others, then the more we can open to our life purpose, since our life purpose is always rooted in service. Sometimes when people have had really traumatic experiences with other human beings and they feel like they don't really trust humanity or like, F this world, it never really treated me well. Like when people have deep wounds with within their relationships, how they've been treated by the world, the experiences they've had, they may not feel as inspired to love and bless and serve and devote to others. So that needs to be healed first for some of us before we can fully step into our life purpose. And it is so worth the healing because fully living our life purpose is what brings us joy. It brings us a sense of fulfillment. That feeling of purpose brings enthusiasm for life. We're excited to be alive. It's the way in which we get to know ourselves, the best aspects of ourselves, enjoy ourselves, experience our gifts, experience our potential, experience our creativity. These are all very desirable experiences that everyone wants to have. Some people just don't know how to access them and how to have them. And for some of us, for everyone, it's different, but for some of us, it is through healing our relationship to humanity. We need to forgive what has happened to us in the past, clear resentment, clear bitterness, clear ideas of antagonism, clear ideas of separation. If you believe you are separate from the world, you're not going to feel as inspired to love and serve the world. You're just not. But when you know that others are an extension of you, when you know that it is another you inside of that human body, the energy just naturally, the love, the spirit of service, the like, let me support you, let me benefit your life, let me bless you. That becomes very real and true. And service can't be faked. So people can maybe want to be in service, but if they haven't awakened to love and if they haven't awakened yet to oneness, I personally have witnessed that it's not as transformational. It's like whatever they're giving is not quite as transformational. It doesn't have as much, like it doesn't reach as deeply. But when we are so filled with the spirit of love, we know that it's like, we know we're all one. It's, we want to serve, we want to bless others, we want to benefit others. And our life purpose is like it just goes deep. The people that we touch, the people who come into our lives, we bless them, we elevate them, we support their healing, we support their transformation. And then our life purpose blossoms and blooms, which blesses us in all ways. It also brings more prosperity into our lives, more abundance in all forms, abundance in positive relationships, abundance in blessings, abundance in beautiful karma, beautiful, beautiful karma where we're just filled with joy and well being. Why? Because that's what we're giving to the world. We are blessing the world with well being. Therefore, we will be blessed by well being. The laws of karma cannot be, we can delay our karma through our beliefs because we're that powerful, but we can never transcend our karma or bypass our karma. And that is another beautiful teaching that I've received from the Akashic Records, the fact that we need to own our karma. And our karma is so apparent in our reality, whatever it is that we are living, that's our karma. Are the fruits of our lives, they don't lie. They don't lie. But people want to live in ideas of victimhood, ideas of externalizing the problem. The problem is out there. I'm unhappy because this bad thing happened because them. But that keeps us stuck. It's a lie of the unconsciousness to blame the world, to not take responsibility for our karma and to not own our karma. Something that the Akashic Records have really helped me with is also not ever shaming or blaming myself for anything. It's like we can own our karma. We can see that this undesirable circumstance being like reflected in our lives is in some way our responsibility, but we don't need to blame ourselves or shame ourselves or believe there's something wrong with us. At the core of everything, at the foundation of all that we are and all that life is innocence. We can trust in our innocence. We can be easy with ourselves, so much infinite love and compassion, forgiveness, and then extend that same grace to others so that we can create a positive relationship with these so-called negative, undesirable circumstances of our lives, own our karma, like, okay, this is my karma. How can I work with this and start to create more positive karma for myself so that I can experience more of life's blessings? more of the love, the joy, whatever it is that we're desiring. All the blessings of life are available to us, every single one. What if you are born with a bad habit of self harm? How can you transform that? I'm just reading a question in the meeting chat. Hmm. I recommend asking about it in the Akashic Records. I'm going to share about a bad habit that I had that was extremely self harming, that I was very deep in when I started my Akashic Records practice, which is that I used to binge and purge. I was actually bulimic. And I tried to get help from professionals, but it really didn't work. I remember going to a therapist, a specialist, and she like diagnosed me with, this disorder, this mental illness of binging and purging, and created a lot of shame for me. I felt like I had a pathological illness. I was constantly trying to resist it and control it and thinking there was something so, so, so wrong with me. And as soon as I thought there was something wrong with me, it would actually aggravate the binging and purging even more. The Akashic Records instructed me when I first asked them about the binging and purging and the bulimia and how to heal it. Well, first they showed me where it came from. And I saw that it was a stress response, a way of me managing overwhelm when I was a child. I started binge eating. And the binge eating was also an attempt at me receiving feminine love. When I didn't feel safe with my mother, which was the place where I sourced feminine love, my mom, I would turn to food. And it would be a way of comforting myself and soothing myself and just trying to like access and experience feminine love and safety. That was my go-to, binge eating, binge eating, binge eating. And then I saw how the purging was actually my subconscious trying to like bleh, like release an accumulation of energy. So the Akashic Records instructed me to stop calling the binge eating binging and instead refer to it as goddess feasting. At that point, I had been binging and purging for like 15 years. I had so many negative connotations around the word binging. I had so much shame around it. There was so much disgust in that word binging. So the Akashic Records were like, no, 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 call it goddess feasting. And instead of just eating whatever you can get your hands on next time you want to binge, I remember they told me to go to Erewhon, which was like this high-end, amazing, yummy grocery store close by to where I was living in LA at the time. And to get all my favorite desserts, like truly whatever would taste the yummiest, whether it was like pizza or pasta, dessert, like whatever my binge food craving was, to get it all, and then to call it goddess feasting and to enjoy myself, to bring pleasure into the experience. The Akashic Records told me to do this because they wanted me to eradicate the blame and the shame and the darkness and the heaviness around, oh my God, I'm doing this awful, naughty, terrible thing, which is destroying my digestive system, which is actually responsible for the creation of this autoimmune disease that I'm now suffering with. And I've had leaky gut for years, and I know it's because I'm binge eating and blah, blah, blah. Like I had all these stories of blame and shame, and it was all so heavy, and it was just this hell realm, this like, ugh. So the Akashic Records were like, let's clear that. You are now goddess feasting. So I goddess feasted. Very different experience than binging. And then when I went to purge, I would stick my fingers down my throat and like, bleh. And I'd been doing this for 15 years. Like, I really was like, I am such a sick human being. Like, there's something so wrong with me. Those were the thoughts I was thinking. They were like, okay, instead of like calling it a purge, like this sick, terrible, shameful thing, I remember I just had so much shame around it because it's a pathological disorder. I have a disorder, those were my ideas. I have a mental illness. I'm bulimic. Like, oh my God, bulimic. It just sounds so heavy and dark and wrong and like effed up. So they were like, no, 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 you're not purging. Yeah, no, not that. You're not bulimic. Stop thinking like stop because that also has a heavy connotation. You're just releasing, you're purging. And I remember the Akashic Records were like, think of an ayahuasca purge. When you drink ayahuasca and then the purge comes and you know that you're just, bleh, you're releasing something from so deep inside of you that you're ready to let go of. Bless your purge, bless your throwing up experience. What are you releasing? And then stick your fingers down your throat and throw up and be grateful to give all that energy back to Pachamama. Like just get it out and turn it into a blessed, prayerful, ceremonial experience. So that's what I did. And I think after that, I only like binged and purged a few times because I cleared the shame. I cleared the blame. I understood where it was coming from. I got to know from the Akashic Records that bad habit of self harm. Why am I doing it? What is the actual need? I remember I replaced the binge eating with, I started calling friends, like female friends, to come over and like just snuggle me and spend time with me. Because my inner child, when I first started binge eating, had been desiring feminine love, the love of her mother. If I didn't feel safe with my mother at that time, if my mom was mad at me or being mean to me, I would binge eat. So adult me saw from the Akashic Records, oh, I could actually receive this love, not only from myself, because it feels good to receive love from others and it can be very medicinal. And I feel like my inner child really needed love from another. I would like call a girlfriend and be like, I really want to binge right now. Can I come over? Can you just hold me? And then like one of my female friends would just like hold me or like play with my hair or just share love in some way. And it was so healing. I got to know what it was I was actually seeking through the binging. I released the shame around the whole thing, which released my resistance to it, which then allowed it to heal. And that was how it healed. So, thank you for your question of being born with a bad habit of self harm and how you can transform that. I have a feeling that if you bring it to the Akashic Records consistently, you will begin to receive insights. And those insights, if you implement them into your life, they will start to heal you day by day, little by little. Sometimes it's immediate, sometimes it's more of a gradual practice. But I really want to invite you to speak to God about that bad habit. Get to know it. From where did it originate? Why do you do it? If everything is seeking to serve, then that bad habit is seeking to serve you in some way. Nothing is only harmful. It's also seeking to benefit in some way. It's seeking something. What is it seeking? What is the potential replacement? How can you relinquish the resistance to it? Because what you resist, you give energy to. It's like that saying, what you resist persists. We need to release the resistance to it and work with the energy of it in order to transform it and heal it. Everything is healable and transformable. The nature of life is to grow, to transform, to evolve, to heal. Mm. Okay, I'm going to take a moment to see if there's more that wants to be shared. Yeah, I just want to share that I'm really excited to share an Akashic record reading with you tomorrow. Bring your questions. They can be personal questions or more general questions. And I'm also really excited to lead us in a meditation on Saturday where you will be accessing your Akashic records because this practice has been life changing for me. I feel like so much of who and how I am now is because of this practice. I love it. I'm just so into it. I'm so passionate about it. And I'm grateful to get this opportunity to share about it with you. And I also want to share that this practice has the potential to be life changing, but only if you practice it. If you practice it, it doesn't change your life just hearing about it. It changes your life through you developing the consistent going into the Akashic records yourself, trusting yourself, cultivating faith, cultivating the state of consciousness that allows that practice to actually develop in your life. I feel at this point that there's truly nothing more valuable that we can do with our time because our spiritual health determines the health in all other areas of our lives, whether it's mental, emotional, physical, the health of our relationships, the health of our finances, the health of our relationship to the earth, to everything. It starts with our spiritual health. So I want to share that. And I also want to share that you're invited to join me for Akashic Metamorphosis. Registration is now open. Akashic Metamorphosis is my 6-month online Akashic Records training. And it's for people that want to go deeper than just these 3 days, because in Akashic Metamorphosis, we are going to be accessing our own Akashic Records consistently. It's for people that want to develop mastery in accessing their own Akashic Records. It's also for people who want to learn how to become Akashic Records practitioners. I feel like people that are a great match for this training are people who already have a spiritual connection, who already have an intuitive connection, and they're learning more about psychic intuitive mastery, and maybe they want to step into becoming full-time Akashic record readers, or maybe they have other practices that they want to bring channeling to. Like, for example, a lot of yoga teachers take this course, therapists, life coaches, people who are writing books, helping people heal, people who share on social media. You can learn how to access the Akashic Records to channel different posts or channel different transmissions, people who are public speakers, anyone who is interested in the healing arts and wants to step into greater clear service. That's who would really benefit from this training, I feel. Or also people that want to develop mastery in exploring their own Akashic records and then embodying and living the wisdom and healing their own lives. Because the first half of the training is just us embodying the wisdom of the Akashic records, like learning how to actually live it and actually apply it to our everyday lives. Tuning back into the um I'm tuning into the meeting chat. Katerina, if you are already so Katerina asks if you already manifested something negative and the fear right now is overwhelming and you can already see where it comes from, trauma, generational trauma, but the insight itself doesn't shift it. My experience in the past when I've had overwhelming emotions is that the Akashic Records has actually led me through somatic practices. Because in those moments, we may not be available to actually be like fully penetrated by this like divine insight, this divine love, this divine all is well. If the body is in such a fight or flight response with fear, with adrenaline, whatever it may be. So then in those moments, the guidance has more so been some sort of somatic practice to restore the connection to the peace so that we can actually be receptive to Akashic insights and then heal that fear moving forward. So, Leah, you're welcome to email me. I would love to receive an email from you. I I have been hosting it once a year. This may be my last year hosting it. I'm not sure. I've been hosting it every year for almost 10 years now. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So you're all invited to Akashic Metamorphosis. I'm excited to be with you tomorrow. Bring all of your questions. You are welcome to email me if anything comes up. I would love to hear from you. I am so happy that you are part of Activate Your Akashic Channel. I will be praying for all of you that you receive exactly what it is that you are meant to from this event and that you actually move forward with these invitations to develop your personal Akashic channel, because I know that if you do, it will bless your life in really beautiful ways. And yeah, that is my prayer for all of you. So Thank you so much for being present here today. Sending you all so, so, so much love. And I will see you tomorrow. Bye, everyone. Love you guys.